Matt Wixon, Corbett Smith here with your 5A and other games preview. There's other games besides just 6A here in the Metroplex. But week one, you're always going to get those kind of classification games, and I'm really interested to see what SOC has coming back. They have a really tough task this week, going to Cedar Hill, a team coming off consecutive state championships.
Yeah, a couple years ago, Emmett Jones, who was SOC's coach at the time, he's now at Texas Tech, he set up this monster schedule because he wanted to challenge his team, which was really talented. And so he scheduled people like Cedar Hill. Well, SOC is still very talented. Maybe doesn't have the big front-end names that we had last year. And now they face Cedar Hill, which is, I guess, doesn't have the big front-end names yet, guys that we know, but I think it's just as talented as it has ever been.
It just says a lot about Coach McGuire's program there, that they can lose Aka Cedric Ware to USC. They can lose Justin McMillan to LSU, DeMarcus Lodge to Ole Miss, Richard Moore to A&M, and still be considered maybe a favorite in 6A Division II?
Just the stars that we don't know their names yet. That's what Coach McGuire always says. They're the guys that they know are going to be stars, and we just find out about them maybe in week one.
And the biggest guy that he's got, that he's really loving on here last year and this year, is junior quarterback Avery Davis, who's he's compared him to almost everybody. Kyler Murray to Will Cole. He's really made some phenomenal comparisons.
I love that. I love when a coach will come out and say that. Because I think there would be a lot who would be afraid to say, it kind of reminds me of Kyler Murray, but he does. That's a huge or a super high bar to try to achieve. But
certainly electric on the ground.
Yeah, last year in the state final, the 6A final, he came in there and he showed what he can do running the ball.
Against Katy.
Against Katy, right. Against a very good defense in a huge moment, obviously the biggest moment of the year. And now Coach McGuire said, well, now we'll get to see what he can do throwing the ball. And if he can throw the ball anywhere near the effectiveness that he can do running the ball, then he's going to be extremely potent.
South Oak Cliffs quarterback, also worth mentioning, David Johnson coming back. He's lost a couple of real big playmakers, J.F. Thomas gone, and Jordan Stevenson also gone. But he had a good year last year, really solid year last year, and I expect good things from them. SOC also has a strong defense. Hal Vinson, Marvin Terry coming back as rush ends. So it'll be interesting to see if they can contain Davis. It seems like that's going to be a very tall task. Another good game between a 6A and 5A opponent would be Wiley and Saxe. Saxe has one of the best, at least the fastest receiver in the state. Got a ton of talent. A ton of talent on that team, but my eye is on Devin Duvernay, one of the twins that play. Donovan is in the secondary, but Devin is a slot receiver, kick returner. He ran a low 100-meter dash at the state championships to win. An electric player. It'll be interesting to see what he does this year.
Yeah, actually looking at some of the numbers he had last year, I thought he would even have more, but I think part of that is because Saxe they've had multiple weapons, so it's not like they just have to go to him. But yeah, he's about, we have some electric players this year out there, but he's about as good as any of them.
Both of those teams start new starting quarterbacks, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But when you're looking for 5A versus 5A, it does not get any bigger than Mansfield, Timberview, and Ennis. Those teams could conceivably have played in the state final last year. If you're talking about the best two teams in the state, of course they were slotted together to face really early in the playoffs. But a lot of question marks around Ennis, but people still have them ranked high. We have them ranked fifth, but they're in the state AP poll. A lot of respect for Jack Alvarez and his program.
Yeah, it says a lot for that program because they did lose a lot. On offense, of course, our defensive player of the year.
James Lockhart. Yeah.
James Lockhart. But I think it's interesting, too. Timberview, I know it's a non-district game. It's early in the season, week one. It'll probably be long forgotten when they get to the playoffs. But I think this game really means something to them.
Absolutely.
Because last year they had Ennis beaten in that playoff game, and Ennis broke off a big run. I think there was about 2 minutes ago. I was at the game, and stunned everybody. I was getting ready to write how Ennis had a great season and Timberview is moving on, and Ennis won that game. I think both these teams, Ennis is a bit of a mystery because they are replacing so many people, but given what Alvarez has been able to do with that program, they're both state contenders. Certainly Timberview, they've got quite a bit back.
Yep, and Devin Williams, their quarterback, is a dynamic player. It'll be interesting to see how they utilize him, running the ball. At least early on, you don't want necessarily to put your quarterback at risk or in the non-district when you've got such a tough district, and Timberview is certainly in a tough district. One of their district foes also has a really good game, and that's Mesquite Poteet against Lancaster. Lancaster also in 14-5A. This should be a really interesting one, too. Poteet's losing two huge pieces of their team last year in DeAndre McNeil and Malik Jefferson, both to Texas, and having good camps at Texas. Lancaster has a lot back, including a Kimball transfer at quarterback, Ryan Ross.
Yeah, now they have Chris Gilbert, Lancaster's coach, said, we have 3 guys who have taken varsity snaps. He's never had that. And so he's going to deploy him in different ways, too. But I think it's interesting when you're talking about this game. Poteet, they lost 33-2 last year in the opener Lancaster. It wasn't quite, it was a more competitive game than what it was, but Coach Cody Groves said, that really kind of jump-started them. They won 10 games in a row after that. And Coach Groves says, hey, we lost those big stars like that you were mentioning to Texas, but he thinks they're actually a better team this year as a whole.
Caleb Fletcher, that was, I think, his first start on varsity as a sophomore. He's back. He had a pretty good year.
Yeah, they were so inexperienced on offense to start that year. Yeah,
absolutely. As far as Lancaster, Tyrell Alexander is going to be huge this year. He'll have
he's one of those quarterbacks.
He's one of those quarterbacks. They're going to probably play him on defense, as a slot receiver, at running back, at quarterback. They're going to use him all over the field. Very similar to what they did a few years ago when they made the state final with Nick Harvey.
Right. Yeah, and of course Nick Harvey transferred down to Houston. His family moved for his senior year, and that was probably one of the most painful transfers ever for Lancaster. But hey, we got the second chance with a guy who is similar like that, and coaches love to have that, a guy you can just, if you want to call him the ultimate utility guy, just plug him into a different position, and he can do it for you.
A couple of games of note also on the schedule. That's Frisco Wakeland at Lake Dallas. Should be interesting to what Lake Dallas does earlier in the season. They lose their quarterback Dagan Hand to an ACL injury. Should be back later in the year. And I'm really excited about this this private school game. And that's Prestonwood Christian, one of the favorites there in TAPS Division I. Certainly has a lot of talent back, including quarterback Ryan Cash. And they're facing probably the best team in the SPC, and that's Houston Bel Air Episcopal. Bel Air Episcopal has the #1 ranked player in the state for next year's class, even better than Sean Robinson, in Marvin Wilson, a defensive tackle who's being recruited by everybody.
It's another 4-o'clocker.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Matt, you have fun this week.
You too.
My name's Corbett Smith. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned to SportsDayHS for all your news and notes throughout the Texas high school football season.